the first question we would like to ask you is that, like, you have been associated with IIT Bombay for the past 2 decades as a student, as an undergraduate student, and also as a faculty member right now. So, what are the various changes that you have witnessed at IIT over all these years? Like, say, the changes in environment, teaching, student culture, everything.
Okay. When you put it that way, I sound very old, like 2 decades. So I graduated 2008. And then I used to keep visiting the department, even when I was a PhD student, and then when I was working at Unlock Devices after my PhD. I used to keep visiting the department, partly because my family stays in Bombay as well. So whenever I visited India, I just visited the department. So I've kept seeing the campus changing. And of course, since I joined, also many things have continued changing. So for me, it was not so much of a kind of huge culture shock, kind of, if you will, right, when I came back as a faculty. But just to tell you what all has changed. So when I graduated, we had 13 hostels, right? The hostel number 13, 12 and 13 were very new when I started my BTech, and that was all we had. And my batch had 600 students, meaning through JEE, there were 600 of us that joined IIT Bombay. There were only 30 girls in 600 students. So I think that is a welcome change, right? Now we have better diversity. But yeah, our batches used to be small. We had single rooms in hostel. We did not have this concept of sharing rooms. So it was much nicer in hostels also back then. Department has grown. When I was a student in the department, I don't remember exactly now number, but certainly not more than 40 faculty. The faculty strength was very, very small. So that has grown, and that was something I was witnessing when I used to keep visiting the department after I graduated, before I started here. So it has grown a lot, meaning in terms of number of faculty, number of students as well. Undergrad, certainly, now it has more than doubled, but even the graduate student count has increased over the last 10 years or so. And facilities, I think the research facilities, when I was a student here, I don't remember there being so many research labs. Partly because I was not very passionate about research back then. So it's not like I tried to make an effort also to find out what was going on. But I do see undergrads participating more in research now also. And certainly, I think the faculty are also very proactive and very visible about what research they are working on. So that engagement has improved. Yeah, and there are many other things also, like this lecture hall complex did not exist. Many buildings in campus did not exist. Many buildings that used to exist back then don't exist now. So there are things that change. So IIT is a very slow system. Day to day, we do feel that nothing moves. But then if you really think about it, in 10 years, a lot of things can change.
So yeah, the next question that we want to ask you is, what led you to develop interest in embedded systems and sensors, and what interests you? And also, could you tell us about what you're currently doing in it, etc.?
Okay, so my career has kind of been this whole roller coaster. Because when I was a student here, I had, like I said, no particular interest in research or even engineering. But at that time, we have to do BTP, right? You have to do BTP, you have to do seminar. So I ended up doing it in embedded systems with Professor D.K. Sharma. But then after graduating, I did not want to do engineering. I went and joined a consulting company and got fed up in 1 year. And then went for PhD. But when I started my PhD, it was not in embedded systems. It was in circuit design. I started in analog circuit design. Got bored of that within 1 year, and then changed groups in PhD and started working on optics, right? And then graduated with a PhD in working on these optical devices and MEMS devices. worked in analog devices on MEMS. So again, nothing to do with embedded systems. And when I joined IIT Bombay, I thought I wanted to do MEMS because that since 2009 was a large part of what I was doing until 2016. But after coming here, the MEMS activities that I had in mind were not that straightforward to do as a new group, meaning without any students working with me, starting from scratch. Some of the goals I had in mind were too ambitious. I had not realized it at that time. So the embedded systems and my getting involved with the Advani lab partially started as a way of keeping myself busy and engaged, and at least getting the students something to do that you feel you are productive without waiting forever for results. So it started out that I started out wanting to do this just as a filler until my primary goals of doing MEMS I could accomplish. But then I ended up enjoying this so much that now this has become my primary thing. Now I don't do MEMS anymore. So in embedded systems, in terms of research right now that we are working on, there are several tracks. There's a lot of diversity in the group also in terms of specialization that different students look at. But broadly, if I were to cluster my research, I would say one big domain is biosensing and trying to make these low-cost biosensors. But embedded systems, I would club that under embedded systems because we focus more on the sensor development part. So not just the transducer part, but also the interface circuits and signal processing. So that's all embedded because we want to do it in a very low cost and very small form factor. So on biosensing, we are doing many things, DNA sensing, protein sensing, starting some more ideas now with some new PhD students that have joined. But undergraduate students, unfortunately, on that one, I've not been able to involve them because partly because most of those activities are only started very close to the pandemic. So that will hopefully change in the future. But apart from biosensing, the structural health monitoring. So in biosensing, I collaborate with a group in biosciences, Professor Kiran Kundapagil's group. In structural health monitoring, I collaborate with somebody in civil engineering, Professor Shavik Banerjee. There again, we do a lot of embedded systems kind of work, but it's more for concrete, like health of concrete structures, health of metallic structures, right, by electromagnetic sensors or ultrasonic sensors. So the sensor-based embedded systems, I mean, if I were to call myself an expert in any one thing, I would say sensors and not embedded systems, because the theme that ties everything together is sensors in our group, but the embedded systems it goes hand in hand with that. So there are those. Recently, I've started doing some work in embedded machine learning. So there are, of course, many groups and who know machine learning much better than me. I am sort of nowhere close to them when it comes to expertise, who do a lot of deep learning and very cutting edge, machine learning based research. What we do is just applications of some of those things, but again in an embedded platform. So now when you are working with a microcontroller board, you cannot take a large deep learning model and cram it in. So then you have to look at how you do the machine learning model very differently. So that's something I've started very recently. There are a couple of dual degree students working on it for their DDP and one or two other PhD and master students as well. So these three things are there, and then there are other small projects. I don't like saying no, and I like encouraging. So whatever students say I want to do this, I never say no. But then my only point is, if you say you want to do it, don't give up 2 months down the line. So that's how we have mushroomed into all these different kind of projects, primarily because students wanted to do them and I could not say no.
Do you plan on working on MEMS in the future sometime again, because that was originally your plan, maybe?
I would like to. So now there is a postdoctoral fellow that's working with our group and also with Professor Apurva Laha's group. So we are trying a few new ideas in MEMS. So he's sort of leading a few things. So we'll see how those go. If some of those turn out to be successful, maybe I'll get back into the field. Yeah, but it certainly requires a lot more patience. The thing with these sensor projects or embedded systems projects is they are fast turnaround, right? So you start a project and in a couple of years you can make very good progress. And from the student's perspective, you can have good papers. So there is something very tangible. And for master students or undergrad students, I think those are more suitable because the timelines that students are available here and the timelines of the projects. With MEMS, typically the projects themselves are very, very long. So even in industry, when I worked in analog devices, some of the projects I worked on, I used to work on new product development, but some of those products would take even more than 5-6 years from the first time you come up with the concept till you get it out there in the market. So you need that patience and you need a strong team that can execute. So some of those things will take time to build. Yeah, so let's see where we head after whatever Shubham, who's the postdoc who's trying this. Let's see where we go.
What is the one thing that you really enjoy about teaching, like as a professor? How is it different from research? And yeah, so basically,
Yeah,
what do you enjoy?
To be very honest, when I took up this job, teaching was not on my mind. I mean, I did not take this job because I wanted to teach. I took this job because, like I said, I saw all these research facilities here and I thought I can make a difference. But surprisingly, I have started enjoying teaching. In the beginning, I used to see it more as a duty, right, as a chore that needed to be done just because I'm here and teaching is part of the job responsibility. I have to do it. But now I have started enjoying it, and partly that's why I agreed to do 2 courses along with all this other research and everything else. In the beginning, I was not able to. Well, I speak as if I'm very old. I've been here only 5 years, but in the first 2 years here, I was not very. I was not able to observe what I'm able to observe now. Now I see that even when you are teaching somebody in a course, you can really do it as a mentor. You need not do it as a source of information. And I think that I've said in the courses that I'm teaching both of you, right? That you can get information much more easily than listening to me, right? And you will get more accurate information at times also. So in the beginning, I was approaching this more as like I have this information or I know certain way of doing things. I have to communicate this to somebody, whether they like it or not. Now my style is a little bit different. I have this style now where I say that, look, I have this to offer you. If you want it, it can be yours, and then let us discuss, how to transfer that knowledge to you, and let's interact and make that happen. If you don't want it, that's also okay. Right? Maybe you want something else and you're finding it somewhere else. So now that is my philosophy. So when I started thinking like that, teaching has become very, very enjoyable because you can really mentor somebody and watch them transform. And that I was not able to observe in the first 2 years because I was also very new, and some of these things take time. You interact with somebody, you can see the transformation only after a couple of years or so. So that has started happening now. So now I have more confidence in my ability as a mentor also, which I did not have in the beginning. So I thought I'll apply that to teaching, and so far it has worked out okay. One issue I do see, which I really hope will change and needs to change, is the student to teacher ratio is very, very poor. So in the undergraduate classes, for example, I'm teaching a class of 200 students. That's just insane, right? How can one instructor effectively interact with 200 people? So even though I have 10 odd TAs, right, that's still, I think, not very effective. So, and on top of that, we have to do it in this online mode, right? So it's completely undesirable way of doing things. But hopefully the online mode, certainly I hope it changes soon. But the student-teacher ratio also, I hope it improves. One more thing I want to add on that one, like graduate versus undergraduate teaching. They are very, very different from each other. When you interact with graduate students, one of the things that I really try to work on is the confidence of the person, because I have seen not all of them have that problem, but not a small number have confidence problem, because you have tried JEE, you did not get through JEE, and that has an impact, and it takes a few years for to some students to overcome that. So when you interact with graduate students, you have to make them believe in themselves. With undergraduate, it's the opposite problem, because most undergraduates think, and I was no different, that we are God's gift to mankind, and we know everything there is to know. So then you have to operate differently, and you have to bring them back to earth. So that requires a very different way of interaction. And that's enjoyable to me, because I get to see so many different personalities, right, which I was not. Partly the reason I left industry and came back to academia was this, that this job, even though I said it's very slow moving at times, it has this dynamic element. And you do get to interact with a lot of different kinds of personalities, and it just opens up your worldview a little bit more. You start understanding that, okay, it's okay. I mean, there exist people who think this way, right? And that's also okay. So we should kind of learn to respect their opinion and so on. So those things I have started enjoying now. But is it effective or not? I think you guys are better judges of that than me.
Like, we came to know about your teaching and your research also. Now let's take a step back. And you mentioned earlier in the interview that you had for a short time worked in consulting before you went up for higher studies and the following path which you took. So what were some of the major factors which were responsible for you changing your gears?
I have changed gears so many times. The factors keep on changing. But when I was an undergraduate here, I had very good CPI. But it's not because I liked engineering. I was just conditioned as a child, to excel in studies, and I did not know any better. So I came here. I saw that, okay, JEE done. What next? Okay, CPI. I went after that. So I used to attend, very sincerely, do well in exams, because did not know any better. And towards the end, I started realizing that, how long am I going to live a life like this, where somebody set a goal and I'm just running it because somebody else feels it's important. So I decided I will, start thinking for myself. And then I saw, oh, so many people, are disillusioned with engineering. Maybe I am also disillusioned. And then I started exploring a lot of things. I took up consulting because we used to do all these case study preparations, which I'm sure you guys, it's perhaps still very popular, right, for consulting interviews. Those were enjoyable. And I thought I liked that part of it and went for consulting because of that. But after joining the consulting company, two things happened. One was that the economy collapsed at that time. This was 2008, and Lehman Brothers collapsed, and the whole kind of housing mortgage crisis and the whole financial sector collapsed with it, right? So all those bad things had happened, and this was a consulting company, and their clients were sort of struggling, right? So there were no projects coming. There was not much work to do. So we would sit and do these case studies inside the company. I mean, interact with some of the people who had been there earlier and so on. But what I realized during that time was that it was not those case studies that I enjoyed. When I did those case studies, I did enjoy them. But when I worked there, I realized that it was not the case study itself, but it was really problem solving that I enjoyed. And if you really think about it, that is what we do as engineers, right? I mean, even this curriculum or even JEE, everything is structured around problem solving. It's not obvious at all times. So I thought that, okay, I'm not getting to solve any problems here. These are all kind of made up problems, right? We are doing case studies in a consulting company. Where are the real projects, right? All those nice things that were promised. And that wasn't happening. So I said, okay, let me look for that opportunity. But then other jobs, I mean, this was a time similar to the one now, where jobs were not that easy to come by. So I went for PhD because I had worked with this group in Cornell University during my internship. I'm doing that also now. So I went there because I knew I could get that, and I had liked the work I was doing back then. So I thought, okay, it will at least give me the satisfaction of problem solving. And other thing which I was missing was also creativity. Right, some of these jobs you get to express yourself creatively, but then academics you have much more freedom to be creatively very expressive. So that was a conscious choice I made. Again, sort of PhD was good, I did well. But towards the end of it, I was starting to feel that there is no impact. This is so, meaning exotic kind of research. Whose life, tomorrow if I stop doing this research, is there anybody whose life is going to get impacted for the worse? Maybe not. So then I said, okay, this is not what I want to do. Research is not for me. I want to do, products and impact and all that. And started working in the company. But then there again, I started missing creativity. So oscillated back to this, right, where it's now very, very creative. But the impact is there. Like I said, through mentorship and all, you do see impact. Whether the research projects, I mean, how far they go, how many resources are there, are other things. I mean, they are other problems, not entirely insurmountable, but those are, again, I mean, I just see them as opportunities for problem solving. Yeah, so now in retrospect, I think what I enjoy most is problem solving. And problems can be of various types, right? Technical as well as non-technical. So I do enjoy both types. And presently, I would say I'm in this phase where this job is giving me whatever opportunities I want right now. And let's see where we go after this.
So, so now, sir, could you share any memorable memories you have in the IIT campus, like either as a professor or during your undergraduate days? Any memories you have regarding the campus?
Oh, there are so many. Where should I even begin? Well, if I were to choose one, it would be the first day I entered IIT as a student, right? The first day, because I never stayed in a hostel before, I'd always stayed at home. So the first day, so my hostel was hostel 2. That is where, so at that time, like I said, there were no separate fresher hostels and all that. All the students that came from day one, you were given a hostel where you would stay all whatever 4 or 5 years, right? So, and this used to happen long before. So during counseling and all that, once you know that you are coming to IIT, somewhere along the line they would tell you you are also going to be in hostel 2 and this room and whatever, right? So monsoon, I mean, very similar weather like today. It was raining very, very heavily. And I came with my dad. We packed some things into an auto rickshaw and thought, let's see what is this IIT. And I'm sure things will be available there, right? It's India's best institute. So surely we don't need to take a lot of things, right? Mattress and all not needed, right? Everything will be available. So we come here and I see that the hostel doesn't have anything. And hostel 2, now I feel very fondly for it. But the first day when you see hostel 2 first time in your life, you don't feel like living there, right? So that happened. So I see this derelict building. It's raining very heavily. I'm carrying my 2 bags and a bucket and broom and whatever and walking to my room. And outside my room, there is this giant pool. Okay, sitting, this was on ground floor. So there is this giant pool sitting there blocking the entrance door. And my dad has left by then, right? He dropped me and he took that same auto rickshaw back. So I'm just standing there in the rain thinking, what do I do with this bull? Right? I have a broom. Do I hit it or do I wait? Will it walk away? It's already, I mean, it's raining. It's not like I can throw more water and make it go away. I stood there for a good 10 minutes. Nothing happened. Then I think I went and sat in the room next door, which was open. And after the bull left, I went in and then I saw the room and then I had more shot. So that day I was really thinking, did I do the right thing? Is this the right choice that I made? Were there better places I could have gone to? yeah, so that memory still stands out. There are many more, but yeah, now that you asked, for some reason I remembered that. I'll tell you one more incident. There was one. So I was in the last wing of Hostel 2 now, which oversees this Hostel 15. That time there was no Hostel 15, right? So there was dense forest out there. And we used to have this band of monkeys that would visit the hostel every now and then, some 20-30 monkeys. And once, I think some Saturday morning, we thought we'll go to the mess and have paratha for breakfast. And some 5-6 of us went together. I thankfully locked my room, and some of the other guys did not. And we had those 30-40 monkeys show up at that time. And again, we had the same situation. We are going there, it's raining very heavily, and there are 30 monkeys. And there are 5 of us. Now, what do we do? Yeah. But that, yeah, I mean, this is a great place. In Bombay, having a place like this where you have so much wildlife is also quite interesting. I had never grown up with animals around me, right? So this was quite interesting.
So moving on to the next question, what are your hobbies? Any activities that you do in your free time?
Those also change. So these days I am more into sketching. This I used to do as a kid, but not that much. But after I got this iPad, I saw there are so many nice apps for sketching. So I've started doing that. I used to be on Facebook, and back then I used to share. I've left Facebook now, but I have an Instagram page where I upload some sketches. So yeah, that I enjoy now. I never did any sports as a student here, and partly I went for a PhD after leaving that consulting company because I thought as a student at IIT I could not do any sports, so maybe at least Cornell, Ivy League, I will do sports. So there I picked up a few things: tennis, squash. Well, swimming I always used to do, but now unfortunately all of those are also stopped. So here I tried tennis. The tennis courts here are really great, by the way. But unfortunately, I only discovered them early 2020. So not been able to use them a lot. Swimming pool here is also very nice, but again, same thing. I started using it only in the autumn 2019 semester. So let's see.
So, how would you like to describe your experience so far at IIT Bombay, both as a student and as a faculty member? And do you think like IIT Bombay is vastly different from other universities abroad?
So, okay, so as a student, like I said, I was not engaged that much at IIT. I was focused so much on that CPI that I was completely blind to everything else that IIT had to offer. So as a student, I could not make, and I mean at hostel, definitely we made very good friends, and friends wise, I have no complaints, right? We had a good time. But some of the other things at IIT, I could never participate. I missed out as a student. So now, like I said, I mean, some of these sports facilities and all, let's see. I mean, hopefully we'll reach a time where I can start using them again. But it's a good place. It's a place where you have so many smart people, but also very good people, right? And there is a difference between being smart and being a good person. So here I see there are a lot of good people, right? Very well-meaning people and very helpful and very honest, right? So that I do appreciate. And it's very intellectual. I mean, you are surrounded by so many smart people with whom you can have so many sort of deep discussions, right? That I do enjoy. I have only seen Cornell firsthand. Apart from IIT Bombay, that was the only other place that I've studied at. I observed MIT secondhand, right? Not firsthand. So my wife was postdoc at MIT. She's also faculty member in our department. But when she was doing her postdoc at MIT, I observed MIT secondhand. I feel the difference, I mean, there are, of course, a lot of differences between IIT Bombay and these places. Just if you look at facilities, but also remember they are in developed countries and they are much older institutes, right? They have a lot of history and a lot of alumni and lot of resources which we also have, but maybe not as much as them. The experience, student experience wise, I think in Cornell, at least what I used to see was there was a lot of rigor and a lot of value for the education, right? Here I see that most students, and I think this is just our Indian culture, we glorify the entrance exam so much that sometimes we end up feeling that those are the real pursuits and what comes next is a reward, right? But that is not the case. Actually, that is just the means to get to this, which should be the pursuit, right? And in fact, it's a never-ending pursuit because you are always growing and you should always aspire to keep growing, right? So that doesn't happen is what I feel, that many students come here thinking that they have already accomplished whatever they had to accomplish. And I feel therefore, like me as a student, they are not able to derive all that this institute has to offer. Because what is an institute after all? It is people, right? I mean, buildings and machines can only go so far. The machines are not going to do research for you. You need to know how to use them best and do whatever you want to do. So the people are there. Now those people could perhaps be more engaged. If that happens, I think I don't see why this place cannot, compete even more seriously with places like Cornell and MIT. Yeah. So that's one thing I hope. That's one thing I think that needs to change. So let's see how we can make that happen. I don't have answers.
This is one of the important questions we feel. Now that there's the pandemic going on, people are facing all sorts of difficulties and everything. Is there any advice that you would like to give to the students?
Again, where do I begin? So many things that I can. One thing as an IIT graduate, I mean, of course, Archishman can relate to this, right? As an IIT senior, you enjoy giving gyan, right, to juniors so much, right? And that never goes away. So even at my age, that survived. So when you ask these kind of questions, you're risking a long monologue. But maybe I'll just give one or two pointers. One, like I said, don't settle down in your mind so quickly, right? You have not even lived a quarter of your life, right? And I think medical technology is going to become even better. I would say, I would even not be wrong if I say not even 1/5 of your lives, right? All of you will perhaps live beyond 100. So you have so much life ahead of you, but many students have such strong opinions on what they are and what they want and what things should be like, etc. Don't be too certain. Right? I think be open-minded and you will start enjoying life much more. And there is so much ahead of you. So that I will say, because I see many students here are very, very stubborn and very narrow-minded about many things. So my one suggestion will be open-minded and take everything as an experience, right? And you will have a good time. One more thing I will say is don't be afraid. I see a lot of this herd mentality business, right? That 10 friends of mine are doing something, so I must also do. If I don't do it, I'm missing out, or I must be doing something wrong, right? Let those 10 friends do it. You don't have to do whatever those guys are doing. Don't. Life is not a competitive exam, right? Like I said, we get conditioned that way. And in this pandemic, especially those of you that have never actually even met your batchmates, right? Maybe feeling that it's still a competitive exam because the person is just an abstraction, right? Meaning you see them on the computer screen, but you've never actually interacted with them, hung out with them, right? When you hang out with people, it's not always competition, right? I mean, you should make friends and you should have joint experiences, right? So that is more enjoyable. And you have all come here, best of the country. Why are you competing with each other, right? There are grades in courses. Like I say in my courses, they are there for just evaluating how you did that year. That grade is not judging you. So why compete for a grade, right? Just focus on the experience. So that is what I will say, that life is not a competitive exam, so don't treat it like one. Have fun. That is very important. You are in the prime of your health right now. Okay, when you reach my age, you will realize how quickly health can go like that, right? So have fun, try new things, take up new hobbies, sports, fitness. Don't ignore all these things, and make the best of these years of your life. Yeah, so that's what I'll say. Just take more initiative. Maybe one more final advice, right? Many students I see, they don't take initiative. But then if you take more initiative, you will realize that people will oftentimes not say no, right? If you want to try something, do something. But we cannot read your minds. We meaning not only we as faculty, but anyone else cannot read your mind. So if there is something on your mind, just say it, right? There are ways of saying it without offending other people or making them feel hurt and all that. So say it in nice ways, but don't hesitate to take initiative. Be it in academics or any other hobbies or professional kind of pursuits, wherever. If you have something on your mind, you go after it. Don't hesitate.